Hello, everyone. Welcome to Creating Book Lovers. We are here with Tracy, Diane, Christina, Francine, and Stacy Juba. Sorry, I'm not great with names, even when I'm staring at them. So we're going to start with Christina. She'll be reading first today. Go ahead.
Hi. I wrote a picture book called Special Memory, and I'll start reading it. It was put together with the idea that memories are very powerful and they can make a difference. Mama peeked into the bedroom I shared with my sister. "Wake up, sleepyheads." "It's too early," I said, and plopped my pillow over my head. "You need to get used to getting up early," Mama told me. "School starts in a week." I didn't want to start kindergarten because I knew I'd miss Mama and my toys. Mama whispered, "You need to get up for the surprise." Becky jumped out of bed. "What is it?" she asked. Starting second grade didn't seem to bother her at all. Mama hugged Becky and told her not to bother with slippers. I slowly sat up. "We're going to make a special memory," said Mama, before she led us down the stairs and out into the garage. "Listen," Mama continued. "Mother Nature is speaking." "It's raining," Becky said. I looked out the window. "We should watch cartoons," I said, "and never, ever go to school." Mama's eyes caught and held mine a moment before she came over and hugged me. "I didn't think you'd want to miss this." The drizzling rain came a little harder and sounded like rice falling on the kitchen floor. After we made our way into the garage, Mama took our hands and pulled us into the rain. Becky and I squealed at first, but the rain felt warm. Becky laughed and stomped in a puddle, making mud squish between her toes while Mama danced. I looked at my pajamas, now plastered to my body, and forgot a little bit about school. Then, suddenly, the rain fell hard. Becky and I jumped and looked at Mama, who gathered our hands quickly and pulled us back into the garage. Later, when we were halfway through our oatmeal, the storm slapped the sky and sounded like the big trees do when Daddy cuts them down for firewood. The lights blinked and went out. Daytime now looked almost like night. The refrigerator stopped humming. The only sound came from the ticking clock and the grumbling storm. "When I think back to this day," Mama said in her happy voice, "I will smile." "You will?" I asked. Thunder shook the house again, but I didn't care. And I don't think Becky did either. Special memories help when difficult things happen, Mama explained. Not only do they remind us that good things get a turn again, but remembering them gives us strength. "Like after a nightmare?" Becky asked. "Exactly," Mama said. "And how do you feel when you think about Daddy or me hugging you after a nightmare?" "That's easy," I blurted out. "I'm not as scared anymore." Mama was right too, because on the first day of kindergarten, I thought about dancing in the rain and more mud squishing between my toes like magic. I smiled. That's the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pretty awesome. I love dancing in the rain, so.
Oh, you do dance in the rain. It can be fun.
I haven't danced in the rain since I was a kid.
Well, we have lots of muddy puddles here, and my kids love to dance and play in the rain. I think if we didn't dance in the rain, I don't think we would get out as much because I'm such a hermit. So I thoroughly enjoy being out and about and doing things with my kids, especially like things that we do from books, like because we'll read something and my kids will want to recreate it, and sometimes it's totally doable and sometimes it's not. Like we read How to Eat Fried Worms. I don't know if you guys remember that book.
Yes.
So we made barbecue little worm sandwiches. So they were like, it was like sausages cut up to kind of look like worms on a bun with cheese, and my kids loved it. So like a lot of the like little like activities that my parents weren't really big on doing that kind of stuff, but I love to do that kind of stuff with my kids. So the one thing I never thought I would do though is go on active dinosaur hunts. So that's thanks to my son, and of course because my son likes dinosaurs, then my daughter likes dinosaurs, so we're both, I didn't think that would be a thing, but in the books they go on dinosaur hunts and we have to go on dinosaur hunts. And like I was saying earlier, my husband loves pretty much all outdoors kind of stuff, and since he is a geologist, the dinosaur hunts turn into fossil hunts and pretty much anything else we can find outdoors. So that being said, Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about your books?
Yeah, my book series is called the Crystal Cave Adventures, and I'm a geologist, which is kind of where the idea for the whole book series came. In this series, the excerpt that I'm going to read is from the first book, and to kind of set it up a little bit, the story starts out, two kids meet each other, Emma and Brody. Emma just moved in next door to Brody. And when they were talking for the first time, they found out that each of them loves to collect rocks and minerals. And it turns out that their neighbor across the street is one of the local geology professors. And he has this fantastic collection that is so amazing that the State History Museum has asked him to do a big display. So they go over and meet him and help him with his display. And then one night, somebody breaks into his house and destroys all of the samples and all of his maps and information for the display. So kind of the overarching mystery of the whole series is who did that and why did that happen? So after that happens in the first book, Emma and Brody offer to help him recollect all of the samples so he could still do his big display at the museum. But what he doesn't tell them until they find out on their own is he uses a time-traveling magical cave to go all over the world through different times to collect the most rare samples from all over the earth. So the excerpt that I'm going to read is they have landed in the first book in England, in Castleton, England in 1775, outside of a castle that's actually a real castle there. It's called Peveril Castle, and they meet a young girl named Max who helps them figure out how they are going to get from this castle to the cave and steal a sample of the world's most rare fluorite, which is called the Blue John fluorite. All right. Max smiled, her eyebrows raised in delight. My grandfather loves maps, she said. We need to bring these maps with us, Emma said. Let's stack them in order from top to bottom, right, by rows, Brody suggested. Good idea. Wait, shh. Max reduced her voice to a whisper. The distant clomping of boots echoed through the castle. The kids shuffled the maps into a thick stack, then rolled them into a roll, and Brody shoved them into his waist belt. Hurry! Brody grabbed Emma's hand and pulled her behind him. Emma grabbed Aspen's collar. The dog was close by. The pup and the three kids hurried quietly on tiptoes toward the back of the castle. The voices of the soldiers grew louder until Max realized they were in the next room. Max motioned for Emma and Brody to follow her. She headed directly for a large open dining room. Woven tapestries depicting the royalty that once lived there hung along the stone wall. Max pushed a loose stone between the tapestries and the wall opened a small crack. The secret passageway was just large enough for Aspen and the kids to sneak through, away from the soldiers and out into the bright sunshine. The trap door they scurried through was cleverly hidden in the exterior of the wall of the castle. Blinded by the sun's rays, Emma and Max huddled next to the stone wall, while their eyes adjusted to the abrupt change from dark to light. Brody paced in front of them, blinking wildly, but his vision was slow to return. Suddenly, he felt his feet slipping. Rocks and dirt tumbled beneath his boots, and he started to fall. Ah! He screamed. Aspen barked. Max lunged for Brody's hands, landing on her belly as she grasped his fingers. The force of the gravity on his body was too strong for her to counter, and Max slid towards the edge of the cliff. Help, she yelled. I can't pull him up. Emma threw herself toward Max and locked her arms around the girl's waist. Brody and Max stopped sliding, but they were too heavy for Emma to pull over the edge. Brody desperately tried to plant his feet on the cliff wall, but the loose rocks and dirt kept slipping, forcing his feet to spin in the air. Stop moving, Brody, Emma yelled. It makes you heavier. Pull us up, Max screamed. I'm trying. Emma strained against their weight when suddenly she felt a pull in the back of her dress. Aspen, pull, girl, she commanded. Aspen dug her teeth into the wool dress, planting her feet and dragging Emma slowly backwards. Inch by inch, Aspen pulled the kids toward the castle wall until Brody's hands emerged the top of the cliff. Emma grabbed his wrist, and together she and Max pulled him to safety. The three kids lay motionless, trying to regain their composure. Aspen laid beside Brody. Thank you, girl, he said, squeezing the dog close to him. When his breath returned to normal, Brody peered over the edge of the hill. The backside of the castle was only a few feet from the edge of the steep cliff that led to a tree-filled ravine below. That was close, he said. Yes, let's not do that again, Max said. Emma nodded, looking around the castle grounds. The town of Castleton lay on the opposite side of Peveril Castle, at the base of a long, sloping hillside. Tall trees lined the edges of the castle property from the top of the hill to the base near town. Lush grass lay like a green carpet over the steep slopes that fell from the castle on all sides. At the base of the slopes, a gentle rolling landscape reached outward in all directions until it found the next peak. Now what? Emma said. We could head to the cave, Brody suggested. No, Max said. That was Liam and Henry. Owen wasn't with them, and they don't know me well, so we can't let them see us again. There was too much open space before we get to Mamtor. Then what do we do? Emma asked. I'm thinking, Max said. Before they could devise a plan, Liam and Henry rounded the southeast corner of the castle. Hey, you kids, stop, the soldiers yelled. They drew their muskets and hurried toward Max, Brody, Emma, and Aspen. Brody glanced from Max and then to Emma. Run, he yelled. And that's the end of that chapter.
Yay! Sorry, I had to unmute. Nice.
Thank you.
So, Tracy, make sure you, what's your last name so that if people are looking you up, they can find you?
The books are written under Tracy Diane. And the book series is Crystal Cave Adventures. I do have a website for it, and each of the books has a companion activity book that teaches the kids a lot about the places in the book and about the rocks, because most everything in the books is a real place, and there's a lot of history behind each of them. So a lot of that is explained in those activity books too.
Fantastic.
So in the books, because we haven't had a chance to. We plan to, but we haven't had a chance to go all the way through your books. So in the books, do they go all over? Do you stick to the United States, or do you have some special spots?
So the first one, they land in England, and then the second one, they actually go to the gold rush in California. The third book, they end up in Australia in the early 1900s. And then the fourth book, they are in Italy at Mount Vesuvius.
Oh, that sounds fun. They're gonna go everywhere. I mean, I know, like, the past couple of years, most people can't travel at all. So, we're doing the bulk of our traveling through books. So that sounds pretty awesome to take the family on a little adventure.
Well, one of the things I tried to do is make sure that the mineral and rock samples that they're going after in these books are real ones, and they are very rare. So it's really interesting to see that those are from all over the world. Like the blue John fluorite in the first book, the only place that you can find that actual sample is in these 2 caves in England.
Now I kind of want to go to England. I think our last bit we talked about going to London. I'm like, we need to go to London.
I guess there's somebody out there trying to give us a message, man.
I kind of feel like it, like they're like London, it's calling your name.
The author encounter goes to London. Wow, that would be something.
That would be something. So, you said each book has like a companion. So the companion book's more activities and just more information on like background and such.
Yeah, so each of the activity books has basically a little summary of what the kids did in each of the books. It goes through fun facts about each book, whether it's like Brody's mom is a college professor, and in the book she teaches at Concord University, which is a real university where my dad taught. So there's information about the history of the school. There's quizzes about the book. There's activities they can do. There's experiments that they can do that relate to the samples in the book. And there's just a lot of fun facts and like little online scavenger hunts that they can do to find out more information about the things in each of the books.
Cool. And I noticed on your website that one of you had like rock samples. Those are probably more common, rock samples.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like I do like on the website where I have the rocks and minerals, the mini-me geology site, I do have samples of fluorite and things like that, but they are not the super rare ones. They're very expensive and very hard to find, but they're similar enough that people could get a sample of that and know that it's, fairly close to what they went and found in the books.
Well, my husband and my kids all have rock collections. This is not something I ever did. Like I was not somebody who would stop and pick up rocks and bring them home. But my kids, it's just I had to get over it because it's natural to my husband. If he sees an interesting rock, he will pick it up and take it with him. And my kids follow suit. So it's so. And I mean, I've had that experience where I'm washing laundry and I'm like, what is that sound? Something that's a street that turns out to be an actual rock. And so I totally get that. And I love how in your book, they have to do it together.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have to work together. And my kids are at that age where they, it's boy stuff and girl stuff, and it's kind of hard to get them to see that if they work together they can kind of do. But it's also kind of darn cute because my littlest daughter is at that stage where she's like, anything you can do, I could do better, and it doesn't matter if it's 2 feet above her. Height is not an issue, fear is not a problem because it's not happening. She's totally fearless, which is kind of like I need them desperately to be in sports because if they're not in sports, they don't get enough energy out during the day. And so they, I'm like, I need you to fall in the bed when it's time. And that only happens if somebody wears you out. So
in the book, Brody's on the track team. So maybe they could run.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, see, we have track here in Texas.
You have good track in Texas.
Yes. Track.
One of my brothers-in-law, I think he still does it. I don't know if he does. I think his son does too, but they coached wrestling. I think it's either middle school or junior high or high school. One of those levels. I'm remembering it very wrong. But they did coach wrestling. So there's that.
Well, Bethany knows my youngest little girl, and okay, so quick little story. So she's
a firecracker.
She really is, and we were at the pool, and this little boy, I don't remember what he did, but she tackled him in this wrestling hole, and the adults around us all got really excited, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm gonna get sued, and. Turns out when I once everything calmed down, they were cheering her on, not the other way around. because turns out that the little boy was part of their wrestling team, and so they were like, it turned out to be a wrestling coach, like the lady that was. They're like, oh yeah, and we don't have a lot. They were like actively trying to recruit little girls because they have a girls wrestling team, and wrestling for girls is not as popular as for boys, and so I was like, she's tall for her age. She's 3. Like, because I think the rest of the wrestling team started like 5. I'm like, she's 3. So she's just tall and strong for her age. It's just not happening. So I was just like that, like in Texas, there are certain things that aren't as popular because we are a football state. So there's football, and of course there's track and basketball, of course, and swimming. There's lots of swimming. And believe it or not, we even have hockey down here in Texas. It's just few and far between. It's not as much as you would have in northern states, but we actually do have hockey here in Houston. I know for you guys live further northeast, so I think hockey would be more of a staple for them. We have like figure skating and a lot of roller skating. I didn't realize that was popular too. I thought that had gone the wayside of the 80s, but roller skating is coming back with a vengeance.
It is? Oh, wow.
Yeah, people are roller skating again. It's fun. But as far as like, I don't think of roller skating as a sport. I guess there's roller derby, but I don't think of roller skating as a sport. I guess the rarer sports here in Houston would be like hockey and field. There's field hockey, regular hockey. We have them, but not every district has them, so they're kind of few and far between. I haven't seen hockey in any of our schools. Is it something that's in the school districts where y'all are at?
My daughter's high school has hockey.
Yeah. I haven't personally seen it. Maybe it's there and I don't know, but I don't know any of the high schools that have it here. So Stacy, when you wrote your book, were you not Stacy? Yeah, that's right, Stacy.
Yeah, she's the one we haven't done yet.
Yeah, I'm the hockey one that's going to bring hockey to Texas. So.
So when you thought, like, when you did hockey, was it because it's a sport you like, or was it like how did you go that route?
Yeah, so I wrote my book Face Off when I was 16, and it was published when I was 18. This is just the latest edition of it that was originally published back in the early 90s. And I think what's special about the book is that it was written by a teenager for teenagers, and I got really interested in hockey during the Olympics, the 1988 Olympics. And then after that, I got interested in the Boston Bruins. I think they were in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, so it was just a really good year to discover hockey. And then I loved to read, and I couldn't find any fiction books about hockey to read. It was just all biographies about players from the 1970s, like way before my time. So I decided to write my own story because I love to write, and I just had a lot of fun writing it.
Hockey is is becoming bigger in romance.
Yes.
I know personally at least 2 authors who have hockey romances out.
Well, and you can search for, and I'm very guilty of this, searching for hockey romances. Like, that's once upon a time that was not a search criteria on Amazon, but it very much is now. You can search hockey romance. You can search YA hockey. You can search. And I would think those would be under sport, but like she said, like they're moving more towards being in the fiction section, just good fiction. And I, for one, have been very pleased at the change in the amount, because it used to be, if you wanted like a sports thing, it was like nonfiction and very much focused on the boring aspects like stats and stuff. But now there's all these, like, I guess, like player things.
Man, there are hockey fans who would not find the stats boring.
The stats are not always boring. I had to learn mostly because for some reason the term hat trick is extremely popular. So I looked that up. So I had to, it's like sometimes you need the boring stuff so that you understand what all the jargon is. So, because I'm like, I don't know what that is. So of course, I had to look it up. But I've been pleasantly surprised at the stuff that's coming down the pipelines and the authors that are coming up with new ideas in these arenas. And like your book it's about hockey, but it's also about the connection between the two main characters, right?
Yeah, it's about two twin brothers who don't get along, and initially they go to different schools. Like one goes to private school and one goes to public, and then due to like financial reasons, they have to pull the other son out of private school. So they're both in the same school, and they're both very competitive, and they're competing to be captain of the hockey team. So it's a lot about sibling rivalry and sportsmanship and putting aside their differences for the good of the team. And then there's also an aspect of divorce and the toll it takes on the family, because they also have two younger brothers and the parents are fighting a lot and wind up separating. So kind of a combination of family story, sports story, school story. I try to incorporate all those different themes.
Well, it's always good to have books that kind of reflect things that go on in kids' lives, real life things, and not so much magical. I remember when I was a kid, a lot of the books turned me off because they were so fantastical. Like, I don't know, there was a book about a doll that came to life that the teachers were always pushing, and I'm just like, what does that have to do with me? None of my dolls have come to life. I've tried. They don't.
I don't like dolls coming to life.
Let me interject real quick. We have in the chat box, we have our supporter member who is a freelance editor and a poet, among many other things. Her name is Debbie Ewing, and she's one of our supporter members. And we have a guest, Catherine, who has joined us and said, nice story. I think she was talking to Tracy, or maybe she's talking to Christina. I don't know, but she made the comment, nice story. So
awesome. Okay, cool. So I'll let Stacy go ahead and read her book, and then we can do some more Q&A later.
Okay. And first, I also wanted to say I really enjoyed Christina's excerpt and Tracy's excerpt. Christina's book is exactly the kind of book I would have read to my kids when they were younger. I love reading storybooks like that. And I've read Tracy's books, and they're a lot of fun. So I love the idea of those activity books to go with them. So lots of good material to read here. Okay, so this is it's a scene about the first game of the season, where the boys are playing together for the first time, out of practice and in an actual game. Okay, so it's the first game of the season, and the Bayview Jets were playing against the Brentwood Hawks. They were in the Brentwood Arena, and the stands were packed. TJ went to take the opening face-off, his stomach in knots. Brad and Steve were to his right and left, Russ and Mark in back, and Trey in goal. As the referee in his black and white striped shirt bent over the face-off circle at center ice, TJ swallowed hard. The referee held the puck over his right shoulder and motioned both centers back a bit from the face-off spot. TJ and the Hawk center stared down at the spot, their sticks poised a few inches off the ice as they anticipated the drop. The referee dropped the puck, and the two centers slashed their sticks at it. TJ won the draw, sliding the disc back to Brad, who sent it into the Hawk zone and took off after it. Brad caught it on his stick again, and that was the last TJ saw of the puck. Midway through the first period, Brad overtook a Brentwood defenseman trying to carry the puck out of his defensive zone. Placing his stick under the defenseman, he lifted it off the ice. He then scooped the puck back toward him with his own stick and headed toward the goal. The move caught the Hawks players going the other way, leaving only one defenseman back. TJ reversed his direction, and it was a 2-on-1. Brad, skating down the right lane, was shifting the puck back and forth against his stick's blade. TJ was riding in on the goalkeeper in the left lane, and the lone defenseman was trying to stay in the middle of the two forwards. Come on, Brad, pass it, TJ thought. He was right in front of the crease and had an open shot over the goaltender's right shoulder. But instead of passing, Brad went for the shot himself, only to have the goalie catch it easily in his large mitt. Sighing, TJ wrapped his stick onto the ice. Brad, what were you doing? I was open, TJ said a few minutes later as they skated over to the bench for a line change. Not even looking at him, Brad climbed over the boards and took a drink out of his water bottle. Come on, will you pass the puck? When Brad didn't respond, TJ sank down onto the bench in frustration. By the end of the first period, TJ had had the puck only 3 times, and only because he had won it on a face-off or had intercepted it from an opposing player. Even Steve, their line mate, hadn't had much control over it. By some miracle, Brentwood hadn't yet scored on them, and the game was 0-0. What do you think you're doing? TJ demanded of Brad as the team filed into the locker room. You're costing us the game. Get out of my face. Brad set his stick against a locker. TJ threw his helmet onto the floor. Are you blind? I was open 4 times. We could have been up 4-0. Don't flatter yourself, TJ. Look, I'm just telling you that you better pass the puck, TJ snapped. Or what? Hey guys, come on. Trey, who had come up behind them, said in a low voice. Calm down. Stay out of my way, Brad told his brother. He elbowed past him and sat down on the bench. After Reynolds had harped about how they needed to come together and play as a team, the Jets streamed back out onto the ice. As TJ got set for the draw, he glanced over at his brother, who was staring stormily ahead. Sighing, he returned his gaze to the faceoff circle. TJ got the puck from the faceoff, and once he had it, he refused to give it up. Pushing the puck forward with the blade of his stick, he headed up the ice. At the Hawks' blue line, he was blocked trying to slip through the defense. Shooting the rubber into the backboards, he darted past 2 green and white shirted defensemen and raced after it. A Brentwood defenseman jabbed his shoulder into TJ's side, and TJ could feel his stick rattling against the boards as they went after the loose puck. Finally digging the disc out of the corner, TJ swung around the boards. Brad was in front of the net, but TJ wasn't about to relinquish the puck. Even though a defenseman was on his tail, TJ tried to get into a good position himself. Suddenly, the defenseman caught in front of him and hooked the puck off TJ's stick. Rushing down the length of the ice, he passed it to a forward who curled it over Trey's right shoulder. 1-0 Hawks. Yeah, you're really doing great, TJ, Brad said, skating past him. TJ gritted his teeth and refused to pass once to Brad during the rest of the period. During the few times that Brad had control of the puck, he continued keeping it away from TJ. When the team returned back to the locker room, Coach Reynolds pulled the brothers aside. What is the matter with you two? What do you think this is, a competition? They both shuffled uncomfortably. This is not an individual sport. This is a team sport, and the object is to play as a team, he said. You two are supposed to be line mates, but you barely pass to each other all night. And on top of that, you're both making ridiculous shots. You're the co-captains. You're supposed to set an example. And since you're not setting one, I'm going to make you an example. I'm benching both of you for the 3rd period. I've never been benched in my life, Brad said. Well, then I guess that means you've never played a game as terribly as this in your life, Reynolds replied. Coach, come on, Brad said. Look, just put me on another line, TJ said. No, you play on the original line or you don't play on any line. Now you're both benched and that's it. Thanks a lot, Brad, TJ said as Reynolds strode away. Hey, don't blame me, Brad responded. A while later, as the clock began ticking away the minutes in the 3rd period, TJ folded his arms across his chest and leaned back against a clear partition separating him from the crowd. The score remained 1-0 until, with 5 minutes left in the game, a Hawks defenseman faked toward the net and then flicked a wrist shot over Trey's left shoulder. As the player's stick lifted in victory, TJ stood up. Coach, come on, put me in, he said. There's only 5 minutes left. Sit down, McKendrick, Reynolds ordered. Ron, go in for Glenn. Fuming, TJ sank onto the bench. I can't believe he's not putting you in, Greg said from beside him. TJ just stared ahead, his face expressionless. Steve got 2 more shots on goal and Ron won, but all were fruitless. Bayview wound up losing 2-0. A terrible effort, Reynolds said once the game was over and the players were in the locker room. Everyone was quiet. I want to see some serious changes out there, both in strategy and in the attitudes of certain players. He froze Brad and TJ with a hard look. We're playing Crestwood in 2 days, and I expect a complete turnaround by then. Now go get ready for the ride home. Glaring at Brad, TJ bent down and began unlacing his skates. Next, the end of that chapter.
Yay! Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was fun to write. I remember when I was in study hall writing the original draft, I had a best friend who is always looking forward to me writing some pages, so I'd pass her pages in study hall. And
So,
Aw.
okay, so you wrote it when you were pretty young. So, like, do you look back and think do you think you would write it differently had you been older?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it did do well. It was recommended by the Hockey Hall of Fame junior education program because they have like a like for schools that would send kids to the Hockey Hall of Fame on field trips. They had like a special program, and I was on a list of recommended books, and it received like good reviews and like book lists and school library journal. And again, I was a teenager when I wrote it, so about 25 years later, I actually wrote a sequel to it called Offsides, and that was really neat to revisit these characters I originally created when I was a teenager, because I was able to, I had no problem getting back into them, and it was like yesterday since I had originally written about them, but I was able to add a different, more depth to it, I think, and get into their heads more. So my style has changed, my writing style has changed a lot since then, and I had a different perspective because now I'm a parent, a parent of teenagers where, in Face Off, the kids are just driving around their friends and everything. And now as a parent, I kind of made the parents have a bigger role in Offsides. So it was kind of a blend between my teenage self and my adult self. So it's really neat. I think that I was be able to have both of those books to complement each other so well. They only take place a year later, but they were written 25 years apart. So,
well, it's amazing how teenagers have that complete tunnel vision, and I think as an author, if you can get in that headspace of having that tunnel vision for your characters, it kind of really helps. But I think it's really hard to do once you're an adult to get that same tunnel vision when it comes to emotions and feelings and such. I mean, it's awesome when authors are able to do it, but I know for myself, like, I'm so accustomed to taking everybody's feelings into account that it's hard to just tunnel vision down just me and mine. It's really hard.
In Face Off, I really focused like on those two boys, and I was in school when I wrote the original draft, so I think the school scenes are really authentic. And my friend she would help me like oh, I think he would say this, or so it just really rang true. But in the sequel, I was just able to really go deeper and kind of explore the when they have a 13-year-old brother. I think he's 14 in the sequel, who is actually on the team and Offsides. And he's like a JV kind of on the team. So he doesn't get much playing time, and he's frustrated. So it was neat just being able to take a broader approach and come at it, the same characters and the same family, but with a different style, because they grew a lot from one book to the other, and then I grew a lot as an author from one book to the other.
So I did notice that it said it has a study guide that goes with it.
Yeah, on my website, I have two websites. I have my stacyjuba.com website, which is like all my books, because I also write mysteries, romance, paranormal, young adult book, and I have a children's book. But I also have a separate website called hockeynovels.com, which is just devoted to these two books. I have a blog where I have some blog posts that would be like of interest to hockey families, or recommendations of books for boys or kids. Not that it has to be for boys, but a lot of boys and reluctant readers are drawn to the book, because it's something that they're interested in, even if not so much hockey. They're interested in sports. So on that Hockey Rivals website, I have like book discussion questions for Face Off, so they can download it, and it's something that teachers could use in the classroom, or a book club just pulls out probably about a dozen questions to discuss with the kids about the different themes in the book. And I also have like a word search. There's a fun little word search with names, characters, and hockey terms and everything from the book.
Teachers really like word searches. I remember getting them even in high school. So that's really cool. Shout out to Blythe, who is watching on Facebook. Thanks for joining us.
I do word searches now, and I really enjoy them. When I was younger, I hated them. I think it has something to do with like the deterioration of my eyesight. Like I'm more focused. Like it's easier for me to focus right in front of me, where I went as a kid, I just wanted to see everything around me. So having to focus on a page was never fun. So, Plus, I am still one of those. I'm one of those rare people who cannot find Waldo ever.
Yeah, me either.
Like my husband will just pick up the page and he'll just look over my shoulder and be like, "How can you not see that right there?" And I'm just like, no, never. It's not there."
Have you ever found Waldo? Like ever, man?
No.
Oh wow.
I can find Carmen Sandiego, but don't ask me to find Waldo. I can't. My eyes.
Oh,
I think it's the outfit.
I had trouble with the Carmen Sandiego computer games, but they were fun anyway. But for some reason, I can find Waldo.
I have just recently got to where I can do a word search, and I think it's more because I've made a few for the author encounter, and I think my brain is starting to understand how they work. Like once I pick something apart, it makes it easier for me to understand how it works. And if I don't ever pick it apart, I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. So that's my personality. And I also have 3 kids who are the exact same way. So a lot of things get picked apart like you would not believe in this family. I mean, one of my fondest memories is that my husband had pulled apart our computer. And he was, he had my baby girl on his lap because, she's like, I think she's like 3. And, she's just playing, and he is pulling apart the computer to fix something. He puts it all together. And, the next day while I'm fixing lunch, I hear, "What did you do?" She had pulled the whole computer back apart again. Because that was the fun part when we pull apart. So I'm like, I get it. Like those activities you do with your kids that you think, oh no, that's just, just enjoying the cuteness. Sometimes they stick a whole lot more than you realize. And she's still in the computers. So
when one of my brothers was younger, my younger brother, he took off the training wheels off his bicycle. And my mom was like, "Okay, well, you need to learn how to ride a 2-wheeler now." So he learned how to ride it without the training wheels. But I mean, yeah, kids, their brains are sponges. You never know what they're going to take in. And I think it's so great that we have you 3 ladies here with us today talking about your different stories. And there's all kinds of different activities that parents and or teachers and librarians can use to incorporate your story into some activity or an event or whatever. So this is so great. We're really grateful to y'all. And those of you who are watching live on Facebook, if you put your question in the comment section, I'm watching the comment section. So we have a few more minutes before we're done here, Nan?
Yeah, we have a few more minutes for a few more questions.
Yeah, we'll take questions.
Well, I have a question.
Of course you do. That's a given. No matter what event we do, Nan will have a question. That's the awesome thing.
I can't not have questions. Okay.
Here.
So, my question. This is kind of a what's in this realm next, ladies. So for each of you can answer in turn. What kind of books are you looking forward to creating in the future? Christina, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Okay. So I have already written 2 level 3 readers that are about foreign students living here in America, they're immigrants. Because I work in the schools and I noticed that a lot of our immigrant students and students from other cultures don't have much about them available to read in the school. So I've created some of them. And so I may end up going on to another book with that. And then currently I just finished the first draft, although it's had probably 4 edits already, a fantasy novel. So it's out with beta readers and editors right now. So fingers crossed, hopefully that'll be coming published very soon. Yes.
And you, Tracy?
I am thinking of possibly extending the Crystal Cave Adventure series. The way the fourth book ends, it could either be an ending or kind of a beginning for more adventures. I've also started working on a book for kids and parents that teachers can also use. That's just all like science experiments. Some having to do with geology and some not, but just like a huge book of experiments that they can do on rainy days or homeschool or, you know, however they want to use them. And then the other thing I'm working on is I'm about halfway through a new mystery book that I've trying my hand at, a cozy mystery. So hopefully it's a sweet mystery that a lot of people will like.
Mm-hmm.
Funny? Like a funny cozy mystery, or?
It's a murder mystery, so not funny, but maybe some parts of it might be.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm just curious.
But of course, my main character, she's a geologist also.
Oh, I love it.
I can't seem to get away from that.
Well, no, I mean, what is that? That I don't know. The basic writer advice: write what you know.
Yeah, it always creeps back in.
It really does. It really does. That's what you know. If you know geologists, that's a great way to start.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the one thing I never really understood. Like I could not understood, but I guess I can tell when a writer is writing about a profession they don't actually know about and they didn't do any research about. It kind of shows through, and it doesn't get the depth. Because they don't know the little small details of what that profession would like. You can always tell when a writer's writing a lawyer character, but doesn't actually know anything about being a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, they just know the cliches from television and stuff. They don't know what it's actually like to try to make a living as a lawyer these days. So I always find that interesting, but I'm also, if I really like something, I'm going to dig. I really do. I get attached and dig and ask questions and stuff. So I guess I'm not a great fan because I do dig so much, but anyway, thank you, Tracy. Stacey, what about you? You got any plans for more hockey books?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, I've been tossing around the idea of a third book in the hockey series, like where the brothers are in playing like junior hockey, because Offsides, the sequel, is about with their high school seniors, and they are their ultimate goal is to get to the NHL and before that to play like Division I hockey. But the stepping stone to that is to take a couple of years off from school after they graduate to play junior hockey. So, and then they would like live with the host family, and be in another part of the country. So I've tossed that idea around, like if maybe if they were playing on the same team or living in different houses, how would it be being away from home? And then I also have a adult series with 2 books in it, Storybook Valley, which they are for adults, but they're clean, sweet romance. So teenage, it's something that I'd say like mothers could read at the same time and discuss it with their teenage daughters who still like to watch Disney movies, but are also interested in, reading like young adult books. They're set at a theme park. So the first book, Fooling Around with Cinderella, it's called Fooling Around with Cinderella, and it's about a theme park Cinderella. The second book is called Prancing Around with Sleeping Beauty. So I'd like to do a third book in that series, maybe like a Christmas novella or something like that, or to do a book about the character that plays Red Riding Hood at the theme park. So.
Oh, I was thinking Frog Princess. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that comes on my list.
The whole kissing frogs things always makes me laugh. So mostly because I never got that analogy when I was a kid. And the reason why I didn't get it was because I grew up loving the Muppets. So I thought kissing a frog was like the best thing you could ever do, Kermit was awesome. But apparently kissing the frog was, you kissing all the wrong people to make a prince. So I didn't get that
for a chicklet book, actually.
Yeah, I didn't really get that analogy until I was older, because I was just like, well, of course you want to kiss a frog. Who doesn't want to kiss a frog? Kermit. So yeah, especially
Man, you might have a problem with Miss Piggy if you go around kissing Kermit.
I know, right? You get punched. She's serious. You don't mess with her, Kermit. So yeah, I didn't get that until I was older. But now I'm kind of really liking the trend now towards fairy tales. I'm seeing a lot of like re-envisioning of fairy tales with characters saving themselves, and it's not just romance. Like I've seen some cozy mysteries and some fantasies along those lines of let's reinvent this fairy tale, and the no nonsense princesses in the middle grade and such. So
Yeah,
trend.
back when I first launched Fooling Around with Cinderella, I founded a group of writers called the Glass Slipper Sisters, and it was all authors of Cinderella, well, not necessarily romance, but Cinderella themed novels. So we had a whole mix, I think at least like 15, 16 authors. And it was just amazing how everybody took the Cinderella concept in a whole different way. Like we had fantasy, romance, like comedy, historical, young adult. So that was, it's neat to see how everybody brings such fresh ideas to these fairy tales.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like a great, I always say this wrong,
Anthology?
Thank you. Yes, I think it'd make a great anthology, the Cinderella sisters. But okay, so along that theme, so I just have to mention this. So I was a huge fan of the movie Cinderella, like the whole story. And then as I got older came Ever After, which I like the idea of having a stronger Cinderella type story. But then in college, Disney started, remember when Disney started making sequels and sequels and sequels? So there actually is a Cinderella 2, which I don't recommend. It's not really great. It's more of a collection of stories. 2 is a collection. It's more of a collection of stories than a cohesive plot line. But 3, I don't know if you've ever heard of Cinderella 3. Have you guys heard of Cinderella 3?
No.
Cinderella.
I might have seen it. Was a cartoon? Was it a cartoon?
It is. It's an animated cartoon. It's a sequel to Disney's Cinderella.
I might have seen it when my kids were young, because I remember like at the library we would get all these videos, and I remember like there was like a Little Mermaid 2, and I think there was like a Cinderella.
Mermaid 2 was okay, but the Cinderella 3 is one of those like hidden gemstones where they hit the nail on the head, but like nobody caught it because they were thinking it was going to be as bad as 2. But 3 is not from Cinderella's perspective; it's from the stepsister's perspective.
Oh, that's neat. I can't remember if I've seen that.
It's her, but it's her story, and it's not like the typical like princess save me. It's just a really, I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those things like it's almost not as good if you know the whole plot going in, but if you don't know the plot going in, it's a pleasant surprise of a movie. Like oh wow, there's substance there. I wasn't expecting that. So
it's got plenty of action and suspense and what have you.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with Bethany on that. So for your Cinderella Slipper Sisters, the 16 ladies, I would highly recommend to give Cinderella 3 a try. It was a pleasant surprise, and I guess it was kind of like. I guess Disney actually did a couple of sequels like that where it's the same movie, but they did it from a different character's perspective, so that you can kind of get a viewpoint of how people would see it going in, which I kind of like. I guess a more famous example was that Lion King 1.5, which is told from Timon and Pumbaa's point of view. Which is hilarious if you're a fan of Lion King. So I really love those types of books where you can see different perspectives. I remember in school we had to read, I forget the name because I didn't like the book, but I think it was Pigman or Pigface or something. And I remember the main reason we had to read it was because it was about that perspective too. Like the kids had a certain perspective of this guy that was kind of negative, he's pig face, pig man or whatever. And by the end of the book, they kind of opened their mind to the fact that that's what they were perceiving was not actually the reality of what was going on. And I kind of like those books where you get to explore and learn and grow with the characters. And I find it really great, especially with junior high books or middle grade books, when they do it sneakily, like you're not expecting to grow with the characters. You're thinking, I'm just going to go on this adventure here, not grow up a little bit in the process. Because I know some YA books, it's obvious that this is
Coming of age.
Yeah, coming of age. It's obvious it's coming of age. Whereas with some of the middle grade books, sometimes they hide it on you. You're like, oh wait, he grew up. 300 pages later and they grew up. Woo!
I think are you talking about with the story with the pig face? Are you talking about Penelope?
No.
She had like a pig nose.
No, this is a book that was no, it's not Penelope. I love Penelope.
Okay.
Okay. I probably do love it since I use that name, but yeah. And my daughter thinks that movie was written about her. So, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, no, our family has never had a curse on us. That's a gem of a movie too, but you know. Anyway, so ladies, I am so grateful that you guys came out to see us today and read to us from your books, and we got to explore what's coming down the line for you guys.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
I learned something new from each of you. So I will cut the live feed.
Oh, wait a minute. Before we turn off the live, for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are the Author Encounter. As you can see on whatever side, I'm mirror image. The Author Encounter is bringing authors and fans together. We do different themed events like this. We're hoping to do in person again soon. Our next event that is in fact scheduled is September. It starts on the 17th. It's 2 days, 17th and 18th. We're going to be talking about the traditional publishing path for authors, because authors have many choices. And that's going to be through, are we doing that through Zoom, Nan? I believe that's Zoom.
Yes, for now, we're going to keep doing everything through Zoom, and we will probably, depending on the host, if they want to live stream,
Okay.
or upload later, depends on what that because Bethany will be hosting one of the workshops, and then we have a booksellers panel, so there'll be some local bookstores here in Houston that you guys can get to know as authors, and then we will have a querying workshop from a literary agent, and it's going to be. I hope it's what's it, functional, because I prefer function over form. I want to give people activities that will actually help their careers, and not just a whole bunch of stuff that cost money.
Right.
So
well that event will be free, and we're hoping to do a behind the page this month, but right now it's not set. We're working out some details, so we may or may not be having a behind the page for August. We'll see. If not, we're working on October and December for behind the page. But yeah, September 17th and 18th is Traditional Publishing Day. And then November 12th and 13th is also free. That's Indie Author Day, which we are participating in again. And we are working on some plans for that. And we hope people will look us up at theauthorencounter.com, all one word. And look up these lovely ladies and their novels, and maybe use their activities if they apply. And Nan and I are the co-founders of the Author Encounter, and we hope to see you guys again soon.
Yes, I hope to see everybody again soon. Okay, so now I'm ladies, stay on the line. I'm just cutting the. At least I think that's what I'm doing. Maybe, hold on, I gotta close this.
Turn off the live feed.
I'm not even sure. Hold on, I haven't cut the live feed yet. Ah, wait, no, that's me. There it goes. Okay, I think I did it. I think